This is Hidden Killers Live with Tony Bruschi, Stacey Cole, and Todd Michaels.
Hi. I guess the intro didn't work, but hi.
We saw it. I saw
I
it.
saw it.
You saw the whole thing? Oh,
Yeah.
wow. I saw like 2 seconds of it. It said, "This is," and then it did the scrolling circle on my end. But I'm glad we're all here today. Welcome to the program, Hidden Killers Live, for this Tuesday, 2025. Wow, we're almost 1 month away from Halloween. Who's excited for that?
Ooh.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy to think about, isn't it?
Is it acceptable to get pumpkins at this point?
Yes.
Okay.
Complete. We're going to a pumpkin patch this weekend. Yeah. I like to go to the pumpkin patches at the first weekend or the end of September because it ain't too busy yet. And you can kind of enjoy everything without, all the children, running around and ruining it for us adults who like to go to the pumpkin patch.
So is that girlfriend things that you're doing, or is that going to be with Harper? Or
all of the above, actually. Me and Harper go every year regardless. But my girlfriend and daughter are coming this weekend. And we're also making pasta sauce on Saturday as well. We've been collecting our tomatoes throughout the summer. So we're going to do that on Saturday, because secretly, you did not know this, I'm actually the pioneer woman.
I know you are. No, I've known this a long time.
A lot of people had no idea. They thought that the pioneer woman was this different person. It's me. It's a wig. It's a big Walmart brand. It's all a farce. I know. Blew your mind. But yeah, so that's so I'll have a lot of like red liquid all over my kitchen this weekend. So people will be
pictures.
Like, murder
for the brand
or pasta sauce.
I like the fact that Stacey, you and I have to ask Tony if it's okay to start with the pumpkin stuff. Like he's the authority, and if we overstep our bounds on this, we're in trouble.
No,
Right.
No pumpkins for you.
Not yet. You have to wait
yet.
until the 15th.
I did put I have all these Halloween things, and I'm starting to put I have falled my house. I've not Halloweened my house yet, except for one thing. I had I went through a closet yesterday, and I found this animatronic doll that it's like a child doll, and it's this Halloween one, and it's creepy, and it makes weird and its head spins around, and I put it in one of our downstairs bathrooms. There's a shower, and nobody really uses this shower because it's just kind of an extra bathroom. It's for a bedroom. It's like the guest bathroom's bedroom or bedroom's bathroom, and I put it in there because I'm like, well, where should I put this? And I'm like, I'm going to put it in the shower. So put it in the shower, and I was working on the computer yesterday, and then Harper goes in there. I didn't tell her about it. I kind of forgot that I even put it in there. And all of a sudden I hear this, because she's just going to the bathroom. Unless you're looking over, you're not really seeing it. And and this thing is motion activated.
Oh, God.
So all of a sudden this thing's like, and its head spins around, and then I hear Harper scream, and she's like, what the bleep, the bleep, the bleep, the bleep. It was, so happy Halloween, everyone. I'm going to keep putting them.
It must just be such an adventure in your home.
No kidding,
especially
right?
This time of year.
It's Pee-wee's Playhouse.
Tomorrow morning on the live, when we go live, you should be on with your phone, and you should take us on a tour of what that looks like.
I want to see the doll.
That's what I mean, right?
That'd be fun. I should do it when I have more stuff up, though. And this weekend I may put more up. I have more things to.
No, I think we need just an intro of the doll, and then you can move into the other phases. I need to see this doll.
The doll.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe we could do that. We can go up there. Now, should we just take a tour of the bathroom? Or should I simulate as if I was sitting down in the bathroom what that experience would be like? It's like, okay, going number 2 right now, virtually. And now, whoa, there's the doll,
Does
full
the doll
experience.
have a name?
I have no name for it, no. Creepy child doll. I don't know. That's
you can
all
do a contest online, let people choose a name.
That would be
Name
fun.
the doll.
But yeah, so there's that sort of horror going on in my house right now. Anybody have any other Halloween stuff up yet? Anybody?
Nothing. Not me.
I bought little pumpkins the other day. I'm feeling a bit festive this year, I think. So
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Reclaiming some holidays. Life's good.
I like that. I like that idea. Yeah, no, I hear you, because that can get torn away when you're in bad relationships, and holidays can become traumatic and not looked forward to.
100%. So I'm looking forward to all of them this year. This is going to be great.
I wonder what the holidays are going to be like for the Adelsons this year. You think they visit?
A little slim, I'm thinking. There's not as many chairs at the table. The chairs will be there. The people won't.
Do you think they do like visits to Donna and Charlie on the holidays? Do they go in there? Can you?
Oh, we got to find that out. Is there a way to find out if they get any visitors?
Well, I think it depends on the inmate, I believe, and the jail. I mean, yes, you can have visitors, but there's it's like hospital. You know, there's hours, there's times. I don't know if you have to make an appointment. It probably depends on the level of the security. I don't know the answer to that question, honestly. But it's a good question.
We should ask Eric that. I bet he would know.
We should, when he'll be on next hour. We're going to be talking about the David case. In case you're like, David, it's that D4vd. So when you're like, what the hell is D4vd? Is that a new type of, is that like Ultra HD on a disc? No, it's the name of a singer that incidentally had a body of a 15-year-old in his trunk who went missing when she was 14. And it's a little weird. We're going to dive into that, and also new updates on the Gilgo Beach killer, the allegations against Rex Heuermann, and where all of that sits, because it's going to be one big trial. Judge has ruled that all of the cases, because I think it's been tried on like 7 or 8 of them or something, all of them are going to be combined into one giant trial. Is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? Is this justice for the victims to have this all into one? Is this more convenient for the court? Is this a boon to Rex? Is that we'll talk about all that with Eric Faddis next hour. He is a defense attorney and former prosecutor, so he can give us insight into all of that. But first, this morning, you're lucky. We have more audio and video to watch from Jeff Lacasse, Wendi Adelson's ex, from the Charlie Adelson trial. We got through a lot of it yesterday. We still got a good chunk to kind of work our way through as we continue to try and examine what was life like back in those days from someone who was dating Wendi when all of this went down. From all of it that we've seen thus far, you guys, we saw we've now watched his police interview. We've watched the testimony from the Magbana Sigfrido trial. We're now obviously watching this one. And we saw it during the Wendi trial, or during the Donna trial. I'm getting ahead of myself.
Right.
So we've seen a lot of the same things. I mean, there has been repetition, obviously, but I feel like every time he talks, he kind of paints the picture with more strokes, which anyone would do in a story. Not that he's adding things to it, like making it additional things up or anything, but anytime you retell a story, sometimes, well, I didn't think of it this way. I didn't think of it that way. You add new things to it from perspective. What's been standing out to you guys now that we've watched literally hours of Jeff?
I always like to get into the psyche of people, and I want to know if, and we'll never know this, I don't think, but I want to know if he's had to do some trauma healing from this relationship.
I would imagine.
Yeah. I think it was manipulative, and I think it damaged him a little bit. I know it would me if I were in a relationship like that, where it's just, a constant chipping away, and there's always a game being played is what it feels like. So I guess I want to know what is he doing after the show?
I would hope getting some therapy or doing some self-reflection, maybe reading a book or two on the topic. or 3 or 50. I mean, that's what I did after I got out of a real shitty relationship that was with a cluster of B personality disorder types. Because and I just started a new book actually today, and I love getting into these because it really helps just analyzing the individuals on the show. It certainly, I feel like I can go back and relate to some of these things, and it's healing in a way. But at the same point, I like trying to understand this stuff so we can talk about it, and other people out there who may be going through it can go, oh, I'm not alone. There's a new one. I just started this traumatic cognitive dissonance. And I think it's an interesting concept. I just started getting into it. It's by a psychologist, Peter Salerno. And it's talking about, from a survivor standpoint, someone who's gone through that and trying to figure out what's going on. And we all know what cognitive dissonance is. Traumatic cognitive dissonance is focusing on all of the crazy making that happened in that relationship and how you're trying to put life back together on the other side, but in a healthy way. Because we all kind of compartmentalize things. That's where we get cognitive dissonance going on. And if we're not truly dealing with it, it can still continue to traumatize us over and over and over and over. This is more about healing from that, so we don't have such cognitive dissonance from it. I would hope that maybe he's doing some examining on that area, because I'd imagine there's a lot to unpack. It feels like it's a therapy. Here's what I've recognized. Every time he's talking, it sounds like he's having a therapy session. Have you noticed that?
Yep. And that's kind of where I originated my feeling from, is that it feels like he's letting this emotional garbage out of his body, that it's just been festering and it's just oozing out of his pores now. And he can't wait to fucking tell this story.
Yeah.
That's what I get from him.
Todd?
For me, it's the going back part. You mentioned, Tony, how like every time he's on the stand, he paints that picture. Mm-hmm. You know, obviously this testimony was how long ago, right? Quite a while. Mm-hmm. But to go back and listen to it again, because some of the same stories were told in Donna's trial. But a little bit differently, maybe not with the same brushstrokes as it was told here. So to get that additional information this time around, I'm really enjoying going back over this stuff.
It's fascinating. And some of this testimony that we're looking at goes way back. I mean, the trials, the initial police interview goes more than a decade back, but some of these trials go 3, 4, 5 years back. And when we watched him in the Donna Adelson trial, what I feel about Jeff, and this is just my take on him, I could be completely off. Maybe he's more healed, but it still feels very raw.
Yeah.
I feel like when he's talking about it, he's talking about it from a very raw place. And so I don't know if that's because there hasn't been a lot of healing, because he has kind of compartmentalized it over here, and because it's a lot to understand and try to deal with. But it just feels very fresh, very raw. I think it's good for the case because it plays to the jury, and they can really see the damage that this family has done, not only to their own family and to their children, obviously to Dan Markel and all of his family and the kids, but to all of those that they touched. Anybody in the circle of these people have had just trauma, just the floodgates, just overwhelming them.
I also noticed, Tony, and we all look different than we did 10 years ago, right? Yeah, we've all aged. But I see pictures of him now, and then you look at this. Mm-hmm. He looks a little rough right now. When I'm doing some of the artwork for some of the videos and stuff that we do, when I'm looking up pictures of him, images of him, he looks like he's had a little rough go. And I think it's because probably, always having to bring this up, always having to testify, still probably telling this story, not only in court, but other places as well. I feel bad for the guy.
Well, you can't get any relief from it. It just never stops. And when we experience a really shitty relationship, there is always a part where it's just eating at you and eating. And you can try to heal from it, but I think it just always sits there. And especially if it keeps coming back up, if you don't have a chance to have any closure, and this man does not, because it just keeps coming back with every trial, he's not getting that closure his body desperately needs.
No, everything was on the term of Wendi, and that's the thing. And as much as we're like we all seek closure and to wrap things up in a nice bow and walk away and okay, it's done. You go your way, I'm gonna go mine. That's not obviously how it works most of the time. And everything in this relationship obviously was on Wendi's terms, all the way to what it seems like trying to set him up for this idea that he may have killed Dan Markel. Where were you at this time? Where are you going to be? I saw an interesting comment yesterday, too, after what we were talking about, because, Todd, you made a really good point yesterday about the connection there, with the TV, and we were talking about the calling him daddy, Wendi asking her kids allegedly to call Jeff daddy. Was Wendi trying to keep him in the picture longer than he stayed in her own weird way, where she doesn't, because obviously they broke up, he went away, but Wendi, it seems like the whole relationship with Jeff, from what we're understanding, was very much up and down, up and down. Wendy's hot or cold. There's not really an in-between, it seems like. Do you think she was trying to keep that relationship going beyond the murder so that it would be an easier pin on Jeff? Because it doesn't make a ton of sense, honestly, that they're broken up, they're not seeing each other, and then the murder takes place. If they were going to try and use him as an alibi, it's like, you're broken up. Why would he have any motivation to go kill your ex? That part is weird to me, but it feels like it's something that maybe Wendi screwed up. I don't know. I mean, it's an interesting thought.
I'm not sure. Yeah, it is an interesting thought, and I had not thought about that till you just brought it up. Yeah. Why would you, if he's not around, if you've broken up with him, he would have no reason to be upset with Dan anymore. Yeah. So why would he be the one to kill Dan?
Yeah.
Unless they paint him as vindictive and holding grudges that, people get fired from jobs and, 8 years later they come back and shoot the workplace up. It's like, sure. What happened to you that 8 years later you go and do this?
Mental note, Tony, Stacy can never be fired. I'm just,
good thing we all work in different cities.
Yeah, but I'm really close. I'm not that far.
That's
couple
true.
Hours away. And
yeah, look out, Todd. Yeah,
well,
I'm loose cannon.
If I find out something, I'll give you a heads up. She's loose. She's on her way. They found dead cats, and when that happens, it's the end. Yeah. So.
Oh
yeah.
No, people before cats would go. I would spare the cats. We know this.
The cats,
you guys know this about me. Come on.
That's true. That's true. It's just a weird thing to think of, and I'm sure if you're Jeff, this stuff is still simmering through your mind because there is no answer to any of it. None of it makes any logical sense. None of it ever will make any logical sense. And the people, Wendi, Donna, all of them who basically, doled out this narcissistic way of handling a relationship, a manipulative way of handling a relationship, to them, it's, well, this is how it is. I'll do what I'm going to do. That doesn't, the ability to give a shit about someone else's feelings, to empathize, is just vacant. It's clearly in Donna, clearly in Charlie. I would obviously, I should say, Wendi obviously maintains her innocence. But I would say from what the observations we have made on Wendi, there ain't a lot of empathy there either. Or it's very, very low.
We also got a cool note yesterday from somebody, a message, and it was, and the kids, and the message was, and the kids are still with Wendi.
Yeah.
I know she hasn't been charged. There's none of that. But how old are the kids? Are in their teens now, right? Yeah. Isn't that where they're at?
Yeah.
And they're still living with Wendi.
Well, Wendy's never been charged with anything, so why would they be anywhere else? I know. I completely, and that's and for all those years, that's the disturbing part of it, still with Wendi. And look how they were so isolated then from Dan's parents, and Dan's family. That was a choice. That wasn't murder that took that away. That was narcissistic Wendi that That was a very narcissistic, self-centered move on the part of Wendi to not allow that family to have access to their grandchildren. And I'm guessing Donna had a lot to do with it too. I'm guessing the whole pressure of the family and just the enmeshment of this is the right thing to do. We don't want to do. It's insane. It's another example, I would say, of Wendi not being a grown-up, not being capable of being a grown-up when it comes to the emotional health of anyone. Clearly, she ain't good at herself. And if you're not good at managing that for yourself, you're not going to be good at managing it or helping it for anyone else, including growing human beings in your custody. So I feel horrible for those kids. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't know what the best answer is. I don't know where those kids would have gone. Probably to the Markels, I think would have been a better option.
Right.
Maybe an aunt or an uncle, or maybe even grandma and grandpa over there to be raised. But no, they ended up over there. But that's how our system is so screwed up. Your whole family can be a group of murderers, but if the mom or the dad isn't the murderer, but everyone else is plotting, guess what? The kids get to stay with the murderer's family.
Well, but it is what they know. They know
it is.
mom. So they've already lost dad and, uncle. So maybe a little stability, even as crazy as it sounds, is what they were shooting for. No pun intended. I'm sorry.
That's what the system shoots for without any sort of recognition or understanding of mental health. Our system takes zero consideration of mental health into consideration with any of this shit. It's more so, are they a direct danger to your physical well-being?
Right.
Nothing. Are they direct danger to your mental health? We don't care about that. Yeah.
Well, even physical well-being. I mean, it's possible that she was involved with a murder, for Christ's sakes. And also, can you imagine being a child and knowing this about other people in the family and what's been said in court about your mom, and going to bed every night knowing that person's in a room just down the hall from you?
Yeah. So I was saying yesterday, it's like the system takes none of that into account at all. Right. And clearly Wendi didn't either. But I get, then it goes back to, look, if Wendi had nothing to do with this, because we don't know, and I'm not saying she did, we just don't know. If she had nothing to do with this, then, they're in the right place. Are they with someone, in my opinion, who's equipped to be a healthy mother to those children? Absolutely not. But that's a lot of kids. There's plenty of children who are in far more physically dangerous situations than that. I don't feel like those kids really are in any danger with Wendi, other than mental health issues, and not being able to process things in a healthy way to get a grip on who they are, where they're from. That's going to be a lifelong battle for them. And unfortunately, that's where it sits. And the really sad and scary part about this is, if Wendi does get charged, if she's taken away, there's their little lifeline. There's their little bit of stability. And I'm sure she loves her children in her own way, of what she defines as love, because I don't think it's the definition a lot of us have. And those kids, who knows? I mean, they're being brought up in this. They may think the Markels are horrible. I'd have no idea. All complete speculation. But at the end of the day, unless those kids are able to kind of get a nice healthy dose of reality, and maybe they will when they turn 18, they get out, they're like, all right. The odds of them being destined to repeat this cycle, not of murder, but of this personality type, very high. Regardless, it's going to be very high. So I truly hope, and I always say in situations like this, when you have just such toxic surroundings, that I truly hope that they're able to find some sort of direction, some sort of peace, some sort of identity outside of all of this. Yeah. Because otherwise it's just going to keep plaguing them. Anyway, all complete conjecture. Wendi's never been charged with anything. She maintains her innocence. So we're just discussing, and we'll see where this all goes. Let's go to that, some of those clips. Let's watch the last part of this. This is Jeff Lacasse in the trial of Charlie Adelson, giving his account of everything he witnessed in his relationship with Wendi. Let's continue.
Mr. Lacasse, when we broke, we were discussing a statement made by Wendi Adelson on July 13th, 2014 at her residence here in Tallahassee. Do you recall which statement?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And what was that statement?
After asking to speak to me confidentially, she told me that last summer that Charles Adelson had looked into all possible options to take care of the Dan Markel problem, including hiring a hitman, and that it would cost about $15,000. I revised the amount. I said potentially that could have been $50,000. I'm unsure of the amount. The rest of the statement, very confidential.
So you weren't sure whether she said 15 or 50.
Right.
But she didn't say 15 or 50. She said one of these.
She said one number that I thought was 15 when I directed TPD, and I thought that could have been 50.
Okay, I'm with you. And this statement was made in what context? What was her demeanor?
Well, she has to speak to me confidentially. She was dead serious about it. It was a chilling statement. I had a reaction to it. My stomach flipped. Well, scary and weird. So it was a very serious statement she's making.
So clearly not a joke.
No, it was not a joke. There are other jokes in that domain. This was completely distinct and discrete from any joke. This was not funny.
And this statement was made within 5 days of Mr. Markel's murder by a hitman?
That's correct.
Jesus.
And was this said in any way in the context of the relocation issue?
Well, what preceded her saying that was a discussion of under what circumstances could she or would she leave Tallahassee? And she stated that the only way to leave Tallahassee was if something happened to Danny. That's what led into the statement I just...
Okay. Thank you. That's the proper, Your Honor.
The cross-examination concerned the subject of the phone.
Who's that?
In the cross-examination as to the subject of the proffer.
John.
Go ahead.
The statement was chilling and serious, right?
Yes.
Did you go to the police?
I did not.
You were so scared about the statement that you alerted the police the next day, that night.
I did not.
Why not?
Because it was a past tense statement, and I thought Charlie was a scary guy, but it was about something supposedly he did last summer. I did not know there was a present case, a present instant threat. I did not know him and had visited Tallahassee. I didn't have the context.
So the statement comes out, and you say, all right, now go call the police. Hey, Wendi, you want to go out tomorrow?
That's not quite how it went.
No, you didn't try to go on a date with her the next day?
No, we did go on a date the next day, and then she cut off all contact without really talking to me on that date. So I didn't have a lot of time to process it, but it was a shocking enough thing that took a day or two to process. Also, I had repeated that statement to a friend of mine before the murder, and I didn't get a reaction from her. Like, this is shocking. I saw feedback from a friend who verified that I made that statement before the murder, and she didn't say, oh, geez, you should call the police. So it wasn't just me. There was another person that I consulted with because it freaked me out. And we decided I decided after talking to her, it was past tense. So probably not that dangerous. And we were really wrong. Maybe I should have called the police.
So Charlie Adelson lets you know that he's has friends in the criminal element, the Cuban criminal element, right?
Yes.
And you know that there's a heated dispute between this family. You testified to it today. Heated dispute.
Yes.
About relocation, about divorce.
Well, it's just no longer about relocation. But yes, there's an ongoing litigation for sure.
Right. And then Wendi Adelson tells you that this man who is part of the criminal element really looked into hiring a hitman.
She did say that.
And you thought, I'm not going to go to the police on that. That's your testimony, right?
That's the decision I made. It didn't really cross my mind because of the past tense nature of it. And I consulted with the friend, bounced it off of her before the murder. And neither one of us thought, oh, geez, let's call the police. So it's possible that probably is so dangerous that I should have called the police. Yeah, but I did not.
And so at this point in time, your relationship with Wendi Adelson was really bad, right?
It was hard to tell.
Was it tell that it was really bad?
It was a roller coaster ride constantly because you referred to the next night, the next day, the 14th. On the 14th, I got a warm, inviting call from Wendi Adelson, eager to spend time with me. Maybe trying to distract me, I don't know. But
well, we're going to get to the distracting part.
Yeah.
because that's what this is all about.
But it wasn't in a great, the relationship was not in a great spot. I'll concede that to you.
So
Yes.
your testimony is that when this woman is about to break up with you, when she is avoiding you, when you have just been caught going through her phone and her...
How's she avoiding me?
I'm going to ask work, please.
Yes, sir.
You're testimonying that when you are on the outs with her, which the record will show you were during this time period, that she confides in you the most serious, the most important thing in her life. That's your testimony, yes or no?
Yes. She has a history of boarding out things that aren't in her own self-interest.
Judge, I would ask that to be stricken for the record. It's unresponsive.
This is years to follow where here's the end of the call.
That by law.
In files. Or actually, this type of level, the court's ruling remains the same. You're not to inquire further as to the subject matter. We will revisit later if it comes to it. Please bring back in the witness, or at least he's with the jurors.
Let's pause there for a second. So what was going on right there, it's called proffer, where they were discussing whether or not this could be presented in front of the jury. If you remember yesterday when we broke, the jury had left. There was objection of could this conversation be had in front of the jury because it was kind of up in the air. So that's what they were trying to decide of those specific points that were being made, whether or not it could be brought up, if he should have called the police or not. So what if he did call the police? It was a conversation he was having with his girlfriend, and she says that her brother looked at all options, including that. As of that time, he had no knowledge that they actually went through with it. It sounded like it was more of a, he's looking into all these, or he looked into all these other options last summer because this conversation took place before the murder itself. If he called the police, I don't know what response you're going to get, quite honestly. Some might go, well, they would investigate that. They look into that. They start digging and they'd find it all. Yeah, or they'd tell you, thanks for calling. Have a nice day. Based on how busy they are at that moment in time. I don't know that you're going to get a lot out of that. And I think we've seen it in different cases where they've been alerted about different things. You're going to get different response from different departments. What do you think?
I'm trying to use it from our own lens. Like, what if, Todd, I'm going to throw you under the bus for a second.
Oh, great.
Buckle up, baby.
Thanks.
I gave you warning. But what if you were sitting here talking with us before we went live about, say, a girlfriend and talking about her ex-husband, and you said, yeah, we're going to kill this fucker. I don't know what could we do? What could we do about it? You just said it.
There's a difference between saying we're going to kill this fucker. That's like an intent. We're going to do this. This is, he looked into all options. It's like there's many options on the wheel and didn't settle on it. If she was saying, he looked into a hitman and hired one, you got more of then you'd be calling 911.
But it does feel odd to look into these options. I mean, you look into options when you're going on vacation. Should we fly there? Should we drive? Those are options, not killing somebody.
You're exactly right. But how deep did he look into it, I guess? Because you're naturally going to, I would think, probably hope the best. I mean, if you're in a relationship, you know these people, you're probably not thinking that they actually, talked to a hitman. You're probably going to, well, maybe did they Google this? Like, what does it cost to get a hitman? Like on a surface type, at least that's how my mind would be probably going, unless I felt there was something deeper and darker going on. Obviously, he found out later there was something deeper and darker going on. But at the same point, you have your own self-preservation to be concerned with at that moment in time, too. If you're dealing with people who are chatting about a hitman, and now you have knowledge of this, I don't think that's information you'd necessarily want to have. And I don't think Wendi is above telling Charlie, oh, by the way, I told my boyfriend you looked into a hitman. I don't think you'd want to ruffle a lot of feathers at that moment in time, because I don't think the police are going to do a whole hell of a lot until one of you is dead.
So I've got just a little bit of a personal story that will kind of tie into why I answer what I'm going to tell you.
Yeah.
So I had a murder in my family. My uncle murdered my aunt.
Yeah. Yep.
And he was just a nasty individual. I'm sorry, this guy was abusive, not only to his wife, but to his kids. And we all knew the guy was a little unsafe. We knew it. A lot of things in time, over time, had played into that decision. If he would have said to one of us, hey, if she decides she's going to leave me, I'm going to kill her. Because we know all of the background, at that particular moment, we may have stepped up and called the cops.
Do you think they would have done anything?
Well, because there had been prior stuff going on where they had been called out for other reasons and stuff like that, maybe. But I don't think it would have been much more than stopping out and going, hey, what's going on here, you guys? This has got to stop. You know, I don't think that, I don't know that they would have been able to do much. But even with our background and the knowledge of what this guy really was like, I don't know if we would necessarily pick up the phone and call the cops because this was such a long-term thing with him. So I guess part of me is like, well, that's an interesting conversation, Jeff. Maybe you should have called the cops. But on the other hand, maybe you wouldn't because you don't think it's going to happen in your family. You think this guy's a nasty mother. But you don't think somebody in your family is going to actually go through with something like that. Yeah.
I agree.
Especially if you're on the outside. If you're in the family, you might think, yeah, they're going to do this.
Right.
But if you're the boyfriend, you're going, you know what? This family's crazy, but they're not going to do that.
Yeah. You're not going to the extreme.
Right.
Typically. And even if you did go to the extreme, yes, I mean, it certainly stands out to most of us to be like, well, that's really like, we don't, I don't think most of us are in situations where we've had partners that are threatening to kill us. I mean, well, take that back.
Beep, beep,
let me back that up. Well, when it does happen, you run, you end. But if you, I think when you're in that moment, when you're in that situation, it certainly stands out to you who's in it. But to the cops, they hear this shit every day.
We just got a comment. It's easier to see it from the outside than when you're in it. You know, and we can look back at this.
Yeah.
Now there was a murder. We can look at all the evidence that's come out. We can say, oh, you should have called the cops. At that particular moment, he didn't really think twice about it. He thought it was odd. He thought it was a little over the top, but to call the cops on, you know, your girlfriend's brother, I don't know.
Well, and again, I think the cops are, I mean, how many situations do they walk into on a daily basis, domestic disturbances, where I'm going to effing kill her, or I'm going to kill him, or whichever way it goes. And okay, well, it seems like you need to go cool down. You go over, you know, here, you go over there, you got to be in separate places for a little bit, and they wash their hands of it, and that's the end of it. There's not a lot that gets done. And I don't know that they're necessarily going to immediately open up a in-depth police investigation into, did he actually look into a hitman? Maybe I'm wrong, but, and maybe I just have really shitty expectations because I've seen too many cases where all the red flags are there, see something, say something is happening, and absolutely nothing happens. And I'm not blaming, you know, the cops. I'm blaming the system. It's set up to work the way it works, and it doesn't work well. But that's just how our system is set up. So if we want to change it, there needs to be institutional changes to get to where we want it to be. But I just don't know where it would have gone. And I think I don't fault Jeff for not calling that. I think it was a logical choice at that moment in time. Now that we know the full scope of everything, we see how deep that iceberg is over here, and it's not just this little chunk above the water. Like, oh, holy shit, you should have been more aware of that. But how could you be if you don't fully understand and grasp the depth of the depravity of this family?
And also, if Wendi herself, who may not have known anything was going on behind the scenes, if she felt like there was something there, maybe she should have picked up the phone and called.
Yes.
Right. But she's claiming she didn't know any of this stuff, and maybe she didn't. But if she doesn't, why would Jeff pick up the phone?
Good point. If it's not so severe that the very person who's bringing you this information is not contacting the police, and it is the father of her children, she should be the first one to pick up the phone and call. If she gives a shit about the life of the man that her kids call dad. clearly that ain't happening. I don't think she gave a shit about his life, whether she had anything to do with this or not. The fact that she sat there and did nothing very much says, it happens, it happens. I mean, that's the attitude. That's what you are essentially saying by not doing anything about it. If you truly think that your family is capable of this, and judging by her anxiety and everything else, she certainly demonstrated and presented that, at least her body did, emotionally, viscerally, her body knew her family was capable of this shit. Whether her mind was willing to accept that and move and take the action that it should, that's a different story. But one part of her certainly seemed to know her family has the ability to do this, and obviously did.
This broadcast brought to you by Pepto-Bismol.
Right?
Yes.
Pepto-Bismol.
Or when your family is going to kill your husband and you feel bad about it.
Pepto-Bismol. Try it now at a 2-for-1 special at Rite Aid, Osco Drug, and Kmart. Kmart has great sales this week. Have you seen the Kmart sales this week?
I have not, no.
Holy shit, they're off the charts. Kmart.
Are they still in business?
No, they're not.
Okay, I was going to say, I thought they were gone.
I think there's a website. I think it's a website. I've gone to it just out of curiosity. I think it like links to like Amazon links and stuff. It's sad.
The only thing that's still around from Kmart is their in-store music that you can find on YouTube and stuff like that, which I will sometimes throw on.
Yes.
Yeah.
I will turn that on sometimes.
Especially around the holidays. They got the Christmas music and the in-store announcements. Oh, yeah, it's great.
The
Who
Kmart,
the hell made recordings of this?
probably people like me and Todd if we had access to the cassette tapes.
I work with such geeks. I love it.
Yeah,
This is amazing.
because they were on cassette tapes. The Kmart radio network was cassette tapes, and they got new ones every month, and they just played them throughout the store. And they're great. And they like, if you want to really brighten up her holiday, be sure to check out the jewelry section at Kmart, and then check out the sub sandwiches in the deli.
You guys are not kidding about this. This is real.
Not at all.
No.
Or special on 2-for-1 wigs in the wig aisle. Just stuff like that.
The blue light special. Remember that, you guys?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Blue Light Special and the Kmart Deli. The sub sandwiches of the Kmart Deli. That's what I judge all subs by going forward, is the Kmart. Like, how does this stack up to the Kmart Deli subs?
Oh, my God. There's seriously Kmart background music.
I told you.
Yes. And it's great. It's music. It's like, it's hit songs of the era. You're going to hear like Sailing on there. You probably get a little Patti LaBelle, maybe get some Dionne Warwick in there and all sorts of Carpenters. It's great. It's great background music. I turn it on when I'm working all the time.
We did, just to get back onto the topic, we did get a message. At least he should have told Dan, if not the police. Now, I don't know what kind of relationship he had with Dan, but, maybe that does warrant a pickup of the phone. I don't know.
I tell you what, if I'm in this situation and I know, and you're wondering about this, and he has a little bit of knowledge of, kind of how Charlie is, and he's friends with folks on the other side of the track and all that shit, I don't think I want Charlie to know that I have this knowledge. I don't. Because I think you are on that hit list. If someone's bragging about the potential that their brother's going to kill somebody, and you have knowledge that could incarcerate him, you're next. You are next. And that would have to go through Jeff's mind. It seems like he ruminates on a lot of things, and I'm guessing that might have been one of those thoughts that went through his mind.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I saw another comment where Jeff might be pretty smart, but really stupid. But Jeff stayed with her after that. He seems kind of gooberish to me.
Yep.
I'll give him that. Yeah, I agree. I mean, here's what I'd be curious about with Jeff, if we're going to go down the psychological route on him. I wonder what his upbringing was like. I wonder what Jeff's mom was like. I have no idea. Maybe she could be a completely wonderful, wonderful woman. Or could be a lot like the Adelsons. If he's attracted to this type of chaos and chose to stay in this type of chaos with her for as long as he did. Now, I know it was, he thought she was hot and all that. And yes, that can certainly keep someone in a situation longer than they should because they're not thinking with their brain. But so can trauma responses, and so can conditioning and feeling normal, feeling safe, feeling at home amongst the chaos, because it represents, and in your mind, well, this feels like home because you've been around it for a long time. So whether it's his family or whatnot, but I would venture to guess there's been an unhealthy level of chaos surrounding Jeff Lacasse at previous portions of his life, that he felt that there wasn't enough reason to get out of that relationship at a sooner date. That's just my guess. I have no idea, but it would explain that it does go beyond just, I found her hot. I think there's a level of something like that at play there too. I don't know.
Wanted to fix her. I don't know. Something, something.
I'm not a doctor, but I play one on TV.
A Kmart doctor.
A Kmart doctor.
The blue light special doctor.
I'm the blue light special doctor. I'm listening. Okay, let's keep listening to more of this.
There is the celebration dinner.
And what is the drugs? Although the celebration dinner will grow.
And the cherry?
Boy, it was just in third statement that it was saying if anybody's wanted.
All right, Dreed.
Like one minute.
Okay.
Nobody's talking into their
Where
mics.
the celebration dinner covered in your nursing?
In that same person eliminated dog walk out with statements being several. The first one was the statement that we just discussed, and the second one is that Charlie Adelson that you went to dinner with. That she told him that Charlie Adelson said it was a celebration dinner.
However, this statement is being directly attributed to your client that is heard by the witness.
No.
Mr. Lacasse, please step down again.
Leaving that when Adelson telling him what Charlie Adelson said.
Compliment or respond.
Yes, sir. I asked Miss Adelson about the dinner. She acknowledged there was a dinner. She did vomit at the dinner table, but denied calling it a celebration dinner or hearing Charlie Adelson call it a celebration dinner. I anticipate this witness would indicate that it was referred to as a celebration dinner.
The trash ground.
You rolled on it, so it's the same motion amendment.
How? I'm looking at one now. All right, let's compliment and believe us find ourselves in the same position unless you have the argument which differentiates the television from the celebration dinner.
I think I understand what you mean, Judge. I don't have any additional argument other than this is offered for impeachment. It's not hearsay, not covered by the motion. The appropriate grounds were laid, and it's admissible as impeachment.
Do you wish to proffer the celebration dinner by Mr. Lacasse as well?
No, sir. I think my preference at this point, assuming your ruling will be the same on the celebration dinner, is to have Mr. Lacasse step off the stand, proceed with another witness, and revisit this issue after the lunch break.
Very well. Please bring the jurors back down. You may end your examination in front of them, and then Mr. Rauschbaum will have his opportunity. Well, actually, Mr. Rauschbaum, how long do you believe your cross-examination of the witness would take? In front of the jurors.
I'm a little confused. Are you?
The ruling is the impeachment as the celebration dinner is going to be excluded on the same grounds for now. If we need to revisit later, we will. But as to your cross-examination, that will be taking place in front of the jurors on a subject matter that's already been covered. How long do you think that's going to take?
Oh, she can stop asking questions of this witness.
By the way, she just indicated she would.
Okay. For the issues that we've dealt with just now?
Prior to any proffers and sending the jurors.
Yeah. I'm not really too long. Probably, maybe 30 minutes.
Right, let's bring them back in. You can start your cross. We'll take the lunch break and then pick up from there.
Please bring back in the witness.
Everyone can be seated. Bail, if you can please instruct Mr. Lacasse to come back in. It's good to have an further direct examination for this witness. You may cross-examine him.
Thank you, Your Honor. Professor Lacasse, good morning.
Good morning.
You met Charlie Adelson one time, right?
That's correct.
There was a trip that you and Wendi took down to South Florida for a day after a spring break with kids that she taught.
Yeah, we were in Maui, and then we went over to Miami, or to Fort Lauderdale and Miami, just for the 11th. That's right.
And you had dinner, you said you had dinner on March 11th, 2014 at a place called Yardbird.
That's correct.
You recall Charlie was in his scrubs?
Don't recall that, but it wouldn't surprise me.
And Catherine Medbanoa was at that dinner, right?
She was.
And I think you said that she was bringing up stuff about her ex, right?
Not a lot, just a little bit, but she did bring that up, and I recalled it.
Is it fair to say that she was pushing for information
From who?
from Miss Adelson?
I don't recall that.
Well, was she trying to get Miss Adelson to talk about her ex-husband?
I don't recall that.
Do you recall there being a lot of discussion at the dinner about Professor Markel?
Don't recall a lot. It always came up for a minute. It came up in the context of Wendi Adelson's book. Most of it was Charlie talking.
You recall Katie asking questions about how the divorce was going, how he was treating her, where he was. You don't recall any of that happening at the dinner?
I do not recall any of that.
The only thing you recall is her saying something about her ex-husband.
That's what stuck out. We've had previous legal proceedings where I also could not remember. Yeah, I can't. It's a dinner 9 years ago. I don't remember a lot of detail of it. It wasn't long either. It was just an hour.
Isn't it likely that she was talking about her ex-husband, her problems, because there was talk about exes?
I mean, that's pure speculation on my part. I don't recall. I do recall some other things we spoke about, but I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about them or not. They involved her client. They were, so I'm in my head trying to figure out how much space was there for other stuff. As I previously testified, most of it was Charlie telling us stories, kind of.
But Katie was clearly wanting to bring up the topic, as you said, about her family situation.
Well, I'm talking about 2 or 3 sentences here. I only recalled that in retrospect because there was a murder. I thought, oh, geez.
And it was important enough for you for Miss Kappelman to ask you about that, right?
Okay.
Right. So you remember her talking about her family situation.
Yeah, I also remember Charlie talking about a party he'd recently attended. There's a few other random things.
Fair enough. I didn't ask, with all due respect, I didn't ask you technically. So stick with the family situation.
Okay.
So Catherine McBanoa was talking about her family situation, correct?
For 2 or 3 sentences, she mentioned that Sifredo Garcia, not by name, and the tensions with him. Yes.
You say that Charlie talked in the hot tub or the pool about having connections to the criminal element. That's what your testimony was, right?
Yes. Starting with my initial statement to TPD. Yes, sir.
And you're talking about your statement to TPD after the murder, right?
3 days after the murder.
And after you thought Wendi Adelson was trying to frame you for the murder, right?
I didn't think that in that interview. It took me some time to process.
You're aware that you were called in as a suspect for the murder, right?
Yes.
Okay. And after that point in time is when you gave that statement to TPD regarding what Mr. Adelson said. Just yes or no?
After I was called into the police station? Yes. Yeah, that's when I gave my statement at the police station.
Right. What I'm making clear is, it's not like you had dinner and were in the hot tub with Charlie Adelson and you went back to Tallahassee and gave the statement then, right?
No, I mean, I have no reason to do that.
I understand that, Professor Lacasse. I'm just trying to make it clear to the jury when you gave TPD this statement. And the answer is you gave him the statement after the murder and after you were called in as a suspect on that murder.
That's correct.
Okay. Now, do you recall texting Charlie Adelson after you met with him?
I texted Mr. Adelson one time, yes.
Okay. And do you recall saying to him, hey, Charlie, it's Jeff, as in Wendi and Jeff. Hey man, thanks for your hospitality the other night. Sorry about the clusterfuck with the cab. It was great to finally meet you. I could tell how proud you are of your sister. I am too. She's really one in a million. Take care, dude, and look forward to seeing you again sometime soon. Do you recall texting him that?
I do recall texting him that.
Okay. You like hanging out with the criminal element?
It was my new girlfriend's brother who she was very close with. I've been dating one seriously for 12 days. I didn't think it was right to give a... I was polite rather than honest, let's put it that way. I mean...
Let me ask the question again. Do you like hanging out with the criminal element?
No, I don't do that.
Did Charlie Adelson text you, or did you text him?
I texted him. I can't remember if that was solicited by Wendi Adelson or not, but I texted him.
It wasn't solicited by Charlie Adelson, right?
No, we never spoke again, though.
Actually, he texted you back.
Right, I never answered.
And he said, it was great seeing you. I'm glad you made your flight. Hopefully we can all hang out soon. You testified that Wendi was a wreck. Hold on 1 second, sorry.
One moment, Your Honor.
I've lost my place. You testified about some of these divorce filings on direct, correct?
Yes.
And about Wendi, you testified that Wendi was a wreck about him, right?
Yes.
That's not what you thought in the spring of 2014, though, was it?
You're questioning whether... Here's what I thought in the spring of 2014. I noticed repeatedly her reacting to motions and litigation and getting very, very upset. I'm not saying there was never any good times, but she was very upset when you filed something.
Do you recall sending an email to Wendi Adelson in March 27th of 2014 where you tell her that she's adapting really well to unpleasant circumstances and that she needs to give herself more credit?
That sounds familiar. I would say it got increasingly worse March, April, May, June in terms of reactions to the entire situation. But I know I was sending an email, yes, trying to encourage my girlfriend at the time, yes.
So really, it got worse. Filings in March, April, and June.
No, I don't know when the last filing was. Her reactions, not just to filings, but the entire situation. Let me clarify. So.
Hold on. Okay. Would it surprise you that there weren't any filings?
No,
in May or June?
No, I'm aware of that.
Would it surprise you that there's been testimony in this courtroom that actually things got a little better?
Wendy's status didn't get better. My observation is that Wendi saw her spiraling downward in that time period is what I was trying to refer to.
Do you recall that in the spring, summer of 2014, Professor Markel asked Wendy's parents to babysit for him?
I didn't know about that, or I don't recall it if I did.
I'm sure you did.
Oh, wow. I could not be on the stand.
Do you recall
They
telling
should
law
have objected to
enforcement
that,
your impression was that
telling him
Professor
what he
Markel's
thinks.
Wonder why they didn't.
filing was going to fail?
Yes, I was repeating things I'd heard from Wendi Adelson. So most of that content, that was...
Sir, I'm just asking you for a yes or no request.
Okay.
Let me follow up of where you get that information.
Okay.
I know you have an...
Yes, I told police though. Yes.
So you told the police that Wendi wasn't concerned about Professor Markel succeeding.
No, not motion. No, she was highly anxious. She was highly anxious.
Did she think that the motion was going to be granted?
I don't think she knew. I think that's what caused the anxiety.
Didn't you tell law enforcement that your impression was that Professor Markel's motion was going to fail?
I did tell law enforcement that, yes.
And didn't you just tell the jury that that impression came from Wendi Adelson?
Well, from my interactions with her and partially my own opinion to clarify. But yes, that's true. Yeah.
You also told law enforcement that everyone in the legal community agreed with that assessment.
I didn't speak to everyone in the legal community.
Well, let's read your interview then. And let's see if it refreshes your recollection. You'll recall recording There you said, and I quote, everyone in the legal community agreed with that assessment. At 2 o'clock on 7/23/14, interview part 1, at 34:35 in the interview. You don't recall saying that? Can you give me the date of the interview again, please? 7/23/2014, interview part 1, and 3/6/2015, you reiterated it at 34 minutes and 35 seconds into the recording. You don't recall saying that? Vaguely. I do recall saying something like that. I'm a non-lawyer trying to figure out this situation. Getting different messages from different people. I have no further questions right now, Your Honors.
At the time you were in the hot tub with the defendant, did you know that he was a criminal element? Let me rephrase that. Did you know he was conspiring to commit the murder of Dan Markel?
I had no idea.
All right, and when you were at dinner with Heed and Catherine McVanowa, did you know that she was conspiring to commit the murder of Dan Markel?
Well, no idea.
So you didn't know when you were in the hot tub that you were hanging out with a criminal element in that regard?
No.
All right, let's pause it there.
I would not do well on the stand.
That's exactly what I had in my notes too, where his attorney said criminal element. You're like hanging with are you insinuating your client is a criminal element, the very man you're trying to get off here as not being part of a criminal element, you dipshit. It felt like quite an overstep there by the attorney of Charlie. And we're not discussing Charlie, but I did think that was an interesting piece of wording to use while you're representing someone that you're trying to make a jury think is not criminal element.
All I could see in my mind is Tom Cruise screaming at Jack Nicholson going, "Did you order the code red?"
Yeah, it's like, right. I ordered the code red.
Come on.
Yeah.
He was, Jeffrey wasn't on trial.
No, but it's distract. It's a lot of the Adelson trials have been a lot of look over here, look over there, and everything but right here, and confuse. That was really the strategy they had because there really wasn't a lot of other ways around it. But there you go. That's the Adelsons. That's the Jeffrey Lacasse testimony from the trial of Charlie Adelson. It's very interesting. There are other elements of this case that we're going to dig into probably next week. And continue to examine all of the elements surrounding Wendi, what people have said about Wendi, what people have said about her testimony, even Wendi herself. We'll probably take a look back at some of that as well as we continue to examine this and see where this all goes. Obviously, she maintains her innocence. She has never been charged with anything, so this is all allegedly. And, just it's a fascinating case as we continue to dig into it. We're going to shift gears right now and talk about another crazy case that is going on. This is a case that has all the elements that make the public stop in their tracks. A missing teenager, a shocking discovery, and a celebrity's name tied to it all, if you can pronounce their name. Earlier this month, a Tesla abandoned in the Hollywood Hills was towed to a lot. 2 days later, staff noticed a foul odor. When police opened the trunk, they found the decomposed body of 15-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez, a girl who had been missing for more than a year. That Tesla was registered to singer David Anthony Burke, or D4vd, as he spells it, a rising star in the music world. His career was surging until, suddenly, it was derailed by this connection to a tragedy that is now the center of a criminal investigation. Right now, there are more questions swirling than answers. No cause of death has been released as of this recording. No one has been charged, yet the fallout is already massive for Celeste family, who are grieving. And for David, this is how he says his name, David, whose career has been effectively frozen. Today, I want to dig into the issues with someone who knows the system from both sides, defense attorney and former prosecutor Eric Faddis joining us. Eric, let's start with the obvious on this one. A body in the trunk of a car tied to a celebrity. What does a prosecutor see, and what does a defense attorney see in just that headline?
Tony, I think both of them see that this case is going to have a national presence, that there's going to be eyes on this case. And so both sides really have to ensure that they are crossing all their T's and dotting all, are crossing their T's. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Well, if you're going in the world of David, you can spell it any way you want.
Right?
That's right. Letters don't matter anymore.
Cross the I's, dot the T's.
That's what something like that. But yes, certainly, anytime that there is a young woman, a minor, a child who is deceased in a car, that is going to get national or is likely to get national acclaim in some respects. So, it's going to be a big case either way. Investigation has to ensue promptly and diligently and properly on both sides. And so very high stakes. I'm sure both attorneys are looking at it from that view.
Eric, how do you go into something like this? It's your car and there's a body in the trunk. How in the hell do you defend this? I mean, I know I'm just putting a blanket statement over, just, give me what you would do. But if this lands on your desk, I mean, what's your first thought when you see a case like this? This is a tough one.
Certainly alarming. How in the world did a minor female's dead body get in your client's car? That's a tremendous question.
Right.
From the defense side, my understanding is that David may have been on tour or outside of the vicinity when the body was discovered. That doesn't mean he didn't do it, but there's they've got to tie David to being involved in however this poor girl died. And my understanding is that they pulled surveillance video from David's residence at the time in California, and they're asserting that, hey, if Celeste would have been in contact with David, she would have been on the video. So there's investigation that's going on. They're interviewing people. They're trying to learn their client's whereabouts. They're trying to learn the time of death and cause and manner. All of those things are open questions.
Obviously, registration doesn't necessarily equal possession of the body. Prosecutors have to prove who had control when that body was placed. Does a body in your registered car automatically tie you to the murder, or is it the ownership versus possession question? Is that a legal firewall for the defense on this?
It certainly raises some eyebrows, obviously. But that being said, from defense perspective, I think that what they're going to look at is, hey, this guy was a big star. He probably had a team around him. He probably had assistants, liaisons, that kind of thing. And sometimes those folks have access to residences, to vehicles, that kind of thing. And so there may have been other people who had access to the vehicle. And I'm sure defense is exploring that now to see, hey, could it have been someone else who was involved and tried to pin this on David while he was on tour? Because that'd be a pretty common sense frame job if someone was trying to frame a person.
Right.
There's a lot of questions about what was going on here. Obviously, this girl was missing for over a year. I mean, that's quite a time. And when they found the body, from what we understand, it was in a very decomposed state. So it had been there for quite some time. So we don't know exactly how long she had been dead for and have been missing for a year, but it certainly wasn't like she died the week prior and was sitting in the trunk. That long missing window, I mean, it does seem to complicate the timeline a little bit, widens the opportunity, but also kind of hints at, if this woman who was missing was connected to David, and the mom has now said that she believes her daughter had a boyfriend named David. That's all we've heard, is just that statement. There's a lot to dig into there, or a lot of questions that we have there. Does that point us, and obviously I should say this, David, the singer here, never been charged with anything as of yet, maintains innocence. We just haven't really made any statements, but does this kind of hint at there's some sort of connection? And there's obviously concerns of grooming and things of that nature, considering she was, 14 when she disappeared.
Yeah.
Oh, totally. So the relationship makes David suspect number one, especially when her body is found in a vehicle registered to him. On top of that, like you said, you have this sort of power differential between this very wealthy and gaining popularity star David, who is older, and I believe that he is an adult now, whereas Celeste has always been a minor throughout the whole thing, although their relationship may have started when they were both minors. That being said, David can assert some power over a person under those circumstances. He could, try to get that person to do what he wanted to. And so certainly that connection is there, but that, like you said, that time frame is a pretty big window. And unfortunately, with runaway teens and things like that, they can come in contact with other nefarious individuals. That's something both sides have to look at.
Both Celeste and David, from what we're understanding, had the same matching tattoo on the same finger. That, I think, is a piece that is making a lot of people question, okay, this seems like maybe it wasn't one of your homies. Maybe it wasn't part of your posse that had this connection with you. If you have matching tattoos going on and your body is found in the car of the guy that has the same matching tattoo, it doesn't look good. I mean, it's not to say that she couldn't have just been a crazy fan and that there was, part of the posse, part of his crew that were hanging with her and then decided to put the body in the trunk and not tell David. I mean, there's a lot of possibilities. The easy one to go to is, of course, she has the same tattoo, she's missing, and she's in the trunk of a car, and oh yeah, David has a music video where he's putting a body in the back of the car. What do you make of the tattoo connection?
One thing I think it shows is alleged power and control that David had over Celeste. Look, Celeste was a minor. My understanding is she generally cannot get a tattoo on her own. And so David was willing to sort of skirt those laws and do as he pleased in terms of making sure they had the same tattoo. They have a connection there that is permanent for lifetime unless the tattoo is removed. Now, these are all just allegations at this point, but it looks like an older man who is getting a matching tattoo with a minor, and that's a horrible look and kind of goes to power and control, at least if you're the prosecution.
I didn't think about the aspect that she was too young for a tattoo. That never even crossed my mind. That's an excellent point. You need parental permission for things like that.
Typically, yes, unless you have means and resources and influence of people who are willing to, do whatever because you're a star and sort of overlook some of the more seedy details potentially.
Yeah.
I mean, this, at a minimum, this girl had been missing for more than a year. Let's just take murder out of the equation for a moment here. I mean, because we don't know exactly how she died as of yet. Obviously, the body was stored. Someone didn't want it to be found. Or maybe they did because they put it in a place where eventually it would be found. But if we take that out of the equation, let's say she was hanging with this group and touring with them, and one of the groupies, essentially. I mean, there's movies about this, and it looked a lot more romantic when it was on Almost Famous, where you got the big sunglasses and this is just cute. But in reality, this is what it is. It's not like, oh, you're just part of the group. No, you're probably being passed around by a lot of people in this group. That whole element to this. It would be kidnapping, would it not? I mean, if they're holding and abetting a runaway, essentially, is that kidnapping? If if they're going along with you, whether or not they're, I guess, physically restraining may be the other part of this. But wouldn't there be a possibility of charges in that element alone of taking this minor with you on the road wherever you go? Take the murder out of it first.
It's an important point, and it would usually be something within the context of like harboring a juvenile who's a runaway.
Okay.
Because even if she is consensually consorting with these folks, it doesn't mean that you can just keep her from her family. There are certain laws that prohibit that kind of thing. And so right there, that's problematic. And in fact, there are some videos that I've seen that purport allegedly to show David with Celeste, like doing podcasts and stuff like that together. And so there's substantial evidence that they were together while she was a runaway. That alone is a potential legal problem for David.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen some of those videos that have popped up. I think some people have tried to debunk it. I think TMZ may have debunked one of them, but there's more than one that's out there, and there are several videos where, I mean, it's not a perfect shot, but it does look like it could be her. And considering the connection there, it's certainly not out of the question that she would be popping up on concert videos and such if she's part of the crew at some point in time. I want to talk to you about what's going on here with the body itself. Found wrapped in plastic, badly decomposed. The cause and manner of death are still very pending. Until the medical examiner rules, there's no homicide charge that's going to stick. Prosecutors are basically, handcuffed until the medical examiner actually speaks. Why is that ruling so critical before charges can even be considered here?
It's critical based on the medical examiner's role. So that role in part includes determining the cause of death and the manner of death. Manner of death can be accident, it can be suicide, it can be homicide. Cause of death can be corroborative of that manner. And so before you bring a murder case, you want to know how the person died, because if you're not able to establish that predicate fact from the outset, it gives defense all of these outs to say, hey, we have no idea that she was even murdered. She could have, fallen off out of a window or something, and then people tried to cover it up. Or there's tons of concoctions that can happen on the defense side when you don't have a firmly established cause and manner of death, and you get that from a medical examiner.
How important is digital evidence going to be in this case?
I think it's going to be substantial. We talked about possible alleged videos showing them together. There's no that has not been conclusively determined, but also that there's evidence in David's art, according to some, that seem to reference Celeste. And then on top of that, in this digital age, especially with minors, they're constantly using their devices to communicate, to make plans, to talk about problems. All of those things are going to come up, and I imagine the government, if they haven't already, are drafting search warrants for those digital devices as we speak.
Oh, they have. The LAPD has seized a computer and other items from a home that was tied to David's manager where he was staying. I find that interesting, the word staying. Like, I don't know that David had a place. I don't know if David was homeless, technically. I mean, like, he's a singer, but he's pretty new. I don't know that he was super rich or anything yet. But, he's going around, he's making his music. He's very new in this world, but they did seize that. When you're looking at that, another interesting aspect to this, because I went down the rabbit hole a little bit yesterday on this case and started looking at the Reddits and started looking at the Discords and all that for this. What I have gleaned off of looking into all of that, there appears to have been, again, all alleged, accounts they believe were David's that were interacting with the group on the Reddits, on the Discords, and things of that nature, that now have suddenly gone back and deleted a lot of information. Areas where they're talking about Celeste, things that may look like there's a connection. I don't want to necessarily say anything, criminal. There wasn't anything where, like, I'm going to kill her, but any semblance of connection, I would say, I guess, to her there seems to be an attempt of it being scrubbed from these boards as of right now, which were just fan discussion at one point in time. Now you have death involved here. That doesn't look good if you are the man I guess you could look at it both ways. One could say if you had nothing to do with it, you certainly don't want to make it look like you had anything more to do with it if you really didn't. So you'd have some interest in deleting that stuff. But at the same point, going and deleting that stuff, it certainly makes you look like you're trying to hide something.
Oh, without question, from the prosecutor's perspective, they're going to look at that deleted material. That's likely destruction of evidence. Usually that's a felony. And so they're going to try to link up IP addresses, locations, user accounts, that kind of thing to identify who did the deletion. And then if it's David, that's obviously shows consciousness of guilt and that he's trying to hide something. If it's one of his associates, perhaps they attempt to go after that person criminally, turn that person into a government witness against David. Now, if you're on the criminal defense side, perhaps there's an argument that, hey, he's this highly publicized, big deal. He had this promising career coming along. There's this dead girl with which he had nothing to do. We need to do some PR optics work here to try to distance him from that, which isn't the same as saying he committed the crime.
No, it's not at all. The optics are important. This could. I always, I feel like nothing's ever really truly just a coincidence. You have someone here who has matching tattoos with the victim that's in his trunk. You have the body in the trunk of the car. You have a music video where he's putting a body in the trunk of the car and depicting death and murder. And there's also lyrics referencing Celeste, allegedly, out there as well. This doesn't look good. I don't know how you piece around. I don't know how if you are defending David, and we're certainly not even anywhere near that yet, considering there's been no charges made as of yet. I would imagine there would be at some point in time, unless something clear comes out of this. All those pieces on the surface, that's going to make pretty much everybody go, you had something to do with this person's death, would it not?
Tony, let me throw something out there, and Eric, tell me if I'm absolutely bonkers here, but could there be somebody in his circle that is so envious or jealous, and this is just the perfect setup?
Yeah.
Oh, totally. I think both of those are important points. So one, and of course, are very suspicious circumstances here that seem to implicate David. On the other hand, like I was sort of alluding to, if there was someone else who was the culprit, who perhaps could have even been in this circle, these are all just allegations at this point, and they wanted, they became obsessed or they became involved with a minor and something bad happened. Maybe it was a drug overdose, maybe it was something else, and they said, gosh, I got to cover this up, and I got to get myself out of the crosshairs of the law. One way to do that is to pin it on or put the body in the vehicle of somebody else and say, oh, look, it was actually this David guy who has this tattoo and he's written a song about her allegedly.
Yeah.
So there are some ways to kind of look at it where could it have been a frame job? All of these things are, I'm sure, being investigated by defense.
And it wouldn't be a far stretch for that to happen by any means. I mean, if you are envious of him, if you have some sort of issue, whatever it may be, well, he's pretty much set it up. He's very, very performance art based. If anybody has looked at any of his work and things like that, it's very cryptic. It's very mysterious. It's not just like in your face, rap or anything like that. In fact, he's more R&B than he is rap, but it's very art-based. It really is. And if you were to be on the inside of this circle, you know what's coming out down the road. You really could frame this to make it, I guess, the most morbid, horrible art piece where an actual person is dead in his trunk after he has the music video that portrays it and all of that. I guess right now, this early into an investigation where everybody is certainly looking at David, should we be looking closer, or should the investigators be really focusing more so on the circle around him than David himself, or put some extra resources where you may not think to, because this could be a great time for somebody to slip away into the night as well?
Oh, totally. And what we have, Tony, is we have this. David was very young. I think he's like 20 now or so. Yeah. And so he's this young star. He's gaining popularity. He's gaining a lot of money. He's doing these nationwide tours. You're going to come in contact with some vultures. You might come in contact with some folks who are unsavory people who are just looking to capitalize on their own interests. And so, could those folks have some sort of nefarious involvement that doesn't involve David? Perhaps David, his team might argue, was involved in sex, drugs, rock and roll, and maybe he had an inappropriate relationship relationship. But that doesn't rule out other potential culprits who could have been involved in Celeste's death. And I think prosecution is going to have to do a good job of ruling that out. Otherwise, there's going to be alternative suspects all over the place.
Do we know if he's right now? We haven't heard a whole lot about what's going on with him in this investigation, other than they've seized some property. Do we know if he's cooperating with investigators or anything of that nature? Obviously, he's not charged, so he's a free man as of this recording.
You know, I've got to imagine at this juncture, law enforcement has reached out to him and asked him for an interview. And I'm sure that, I think it's likely he's probably lawyered up at this point. I haven't read any reports showing such an interview. That would be really the metric by which we would determine whether he is cooperating or not. And perhaps I've just missed those reports. But but I'm not aware of any sort of like sit down, in-depth interrogation of David. And the fact that that hasn't come to light leads me to believe that there could be some measures on David's behalf to try and protect him legally, such as not agreeing to an interview, although I don't have any conclusive information one way or the other.
I mean, that could be dangerous to go and do an interview right now, even if you do have nothing to do with this, because the evidence is very much pointing one way. And if they want to put him in a box, if he did not do this, it would be fairly easy to do at this moment in time if you have a very zealous prosecutor, you know, and rightfully so, to try and get information. But if he's innocent, we just don't know enough yet. We have no cause of death as of this moment, no suspect name, no charges filed. Could they be waiting for the medical examiner's information? And in something like this, where the body is in a trunk and decomposed and really in a bad state, how long could that be until we get some information here? And I wonder if we could very well easily get an inconclusive cause of death, unless there's like a bullet to her head, which we don't know. You could just have a rotting body and no real understanding of how that person died. How long do you expect to wait before we hear some sort of charge is filed against someone in this sphere?
You know, in autopsies that are clear cut, it can take a matter of days. On ones that are more complicated, there's decomposition. There aren't any witnesses to how she died. It can take weeks or months. We look at the Barry Morphew case out of Colorado, where I practice, and they found the body of Suzanne Morphew, but it took a long, long time before they were able to issue a report, and they only were able to do so because of a toxicology analysis of her remains. You know, here, if Celeste, God forbid, had some kind of toxicology result, that only makes it more difficult for the prosecution, because defense can say, hey, you know, there was other stuff going on in her life, and I have no indication that would be the result. But I'm just talking hypothetically about how these sometimes play out. Could be weeks or months before we get a medical examiner report, and that report might not shed a whole bunch of light on what happened.
I would imagine nobody in their right mind thinks that putting a body in your trunk is going to then abandon a vehicle is not going to lead to some sort of charges against you. But I guess that's the question: was he that stupid if he did this? I mean, he's 20. Everybody's young and dumb at some point in life, and the weird one you can go with, this is a really morbid art piece, and he's ready to go away to prison, and this is just part of it. The other is the framing end of it. It would be insanely stupid. It is an insanely stupid move of what they did, because it wasn't like the car was just parked overnight. It was there. It was towed because it had been abandoned. So that being said, it feels like somebody wanted this car eventually to be found with the body in it that was connected to him. That was either David, who is basically saying, come get me, or it's somebody that wants someone to go get David. I feel like it's one of two things. It doesn't feel like this body was sitting there and, well, we're going to transport it, we're going to bury it someplace else. It seems more like, well, this is the resting spot. We'll see what happens when they impound the car.
It's a critical point, because sometimes when evidence comes out, it can be so convenient for the prosecution. It's too convenient that the killer would butcher a 15-year-old and just leave her in the car to be found in a public area. It's not like the car was in the woods or something, or lit on fire. It was sort of like, hey, when you guys find it, here's what I did. So I think that's how the defense is going to look at it. Prosecution might say, hey, look, he's 20 years old. He thinks he's untouchable. He thinks he's above the law and can do whatever he wants. He went on tour and thought this would just maybe go away, and 20-year-olds make dumb decisions. But of those two arguments, one seems more realistic than the other.
Yeah. And when your publicity shots look like this, they don't look very good. This is not AI. This is one of his own official publicity shots from the music video. That's we didn't make that to, accentuate the case or anything. That's from David. There's a lot of questions. Hopefully we have more answers maybe next week. Let's move over to the Gilgo Beach murders. One of the cases that never was leaving the public's imagination, and also sets 11 sets of remains found along Ocean Parkway, families waiting years for answers, and a suspect who seemed to live in plain sight. Rex Heuermann, Long Island architect, now stands accused of killing 7 women between 1993 and 2011. This week, the judge ruled that all 7 charges will be tied together, a decision that could shape the entire outcome of the case. Eric Faddis, obviously, you are here to help us break this down. That ruling that they made this week, for more than a year, the defense fought to sever that sprawling case into several different cases, arguing each murder was too different to be lumped together. But the judge, Timothy Mazie, ruled that the murders are inextricably interwoven, and prosecutors will get to present them as one long pattern instead of 7 small battles. There's now one giant war. It's more than a technicality. It changes how jurors will experience the case. They won't see a collection of isolated deaths. They'll hear the state's theory of a single predator operating across decades and a pattern of behavior. What is this ruling? How does this reshape the entire trial before a jury is even seated, before we even have a court date, really?
I think it's a huge ruling, and I think it's going to be really problematic for the defense because, when a jury hears about one alleged murder, they're already getting shivers. I mean, it's already an uncomfortable situation to be in, and you start looking sideways at the accused. Did he do it? Could he have done this? But when you hear about multiple alleged murders with a lot of similarities between them, you look at the type of alleged victim. They were all sex workers. You look at the locale. Most of them were located within a specific locale, their bodies. There are overlap in terms of the evidence among the murders, including vehicles used and including DNA evidence as well. And so, as defense, it's hard to say, hey, my guy didn't do any of these multiple murders. It's just a huge conspiracy. Well, why, person being charged with like 11 murders or so automatically has a huge disadvantage on the defense side, way harder than defending a single murder.
Because at the end of the day, in this case, it's not an all or nothing verdict that's going to come in. They're going to look at all of these charges. Are they not for each individual crime? The jury, correct me if I'm wrong, they could in theory come back and say, well, we think you're guilty of this one, and this one, but not that one, this one, and the one over here.
Oh, they absolutely could. And that'll be the jury's responsibility. They will have to determine each individual charge. And I bet defense is going to request a limiting instruction, which is where the judge says to the jury, hey, if you find evidence of murder one, that the number one count, that doesn't mean you can use that evidence in and of itself to convict him of the second count of murder. However, jurors are human beings, and I think they're going to look at this in a more holistic fashion, which is a problem for the defense, but could give the defense some kind of out on appeal should there be a conviction.
Jurors are human beings, and so are the victims here, obviously, in this. Unfortunately, our society doesn't feel that way half the time about sex workers. And clearly, whoever killed these people did not look at them as human beings as well. Is this... I totally understand the argument of this could easily get a conviction and weigh it stronger for the prosecution, but does it denigrate or lessen the value of the lives of these victims by lumping them all into one big pile of sex workers?
It's an important question because you got to look at this from the perspective of the victims' families. If you have one trial where they're trying to convict somebody of killing your loved one, that's sort of center stage. Your loved one's memory is going to be center stage as well. But when you have multiple alleged victims, there's a concern that things can kind of get lost in this murky murder soup, which is a horrible thing to think about. But and also, does the prosecution spend more time on perhaps the stronger charges and perhaps kind of call in the less stronger charges? You have that concern when there is a trial that involves so many alleged acts over the course of the better part of 2 decades.
And I want to stress this because the similarities in these victims' deaths were not all identical. And that's where I was a little, I don't want to say surprised, but I just didn't know where it was going to go with the judge's decision this week. The defense argued that the cases had nothing in common. The first victim from 1993, stabbed, others strangled, some dismembered, some wrapped in burlap. And obviously we know the burlap ones had hairs of the Hewerman family on them, pretty much all of them. And the timeline stretched almost 20 years. I mean, their position was that there was no true signature, and putting them together would unfairly prejudice a jury. They even floated 5 separate trials to keep things more isolated. Obviously, they lost that motion. Again, I do think, in my opinion, I think Rex has a lot to do with this, but again, I'm looking at this going, are they jumping the gun on trying to connect all this stuff, and will it backfire in the end? Because I feel like the defense, in some ways, this gave the defense some pretty strong arguments of the differences in all of these cases. And they better have pretty strong evidence on each and every single one of these murders that ties it to Rex, not just some collective, well, it looks like kind of could have. I mean, the hairs on the burlap ones are certain, but I don't know about the others. Are they tying some of these in here to stronger pieces because it will make that case stronger rather than being tried on its own?
100%. I think that's absolutely the approach the prosecution is taking. And you're right, it gives rise to this concern that when the jury's looking at this case back in the deliberation room and they're saying, hey, I think there's enough evidence beyond a reasonable doubt of the first murder and the second murder. Well, I'm not so sure, but let's err on the side of caution and convict him of that anyway. Well, that presents a tremendous fairness issue. It presents a tremendous due process issue and significant appellate issues as well. So you got to be careful of overplaying your hand. Yes, Stacey.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but isn't there a bit of public pressure that they want him to be guilty of all of these? So if he's guilty of one, we kind of need to blanket it, because if we don't, there's another serial killer out there who could still be loose. Isn't this more for public pressure?
It's a critical point, and it's something, if I was defense counsel, I'd be arguing during closing, saying that, hey, look, the government has all of these dead bodies and they can't solve those cases. Right. But here we have this scapegoat, and we think they think they can tie him to a handful of misdeeds, and so let's add on all of our unsolved stuff to make us look like heroes and say, hey, we got the guy, we got him, and we solved all these murders from decades ago, when really they better come with the evidence if they're going to take that approach, because simply insinuation does give rise to the specter that they're just trying to get some homicide cases off their desk and sort of look like the hero.
That's what it feels like, honestly. And in no way am I trying to downplay Rex Hewerman. I think he's certainly tied to some of these without a doubt. And if you were just to look at some of the others and go, yeah, I mean, that's a probability. But then you also take into account the sheer population in that area of the country, New York, Long Island, all that. You have more people condensed in one little spot than most any other place in the United States. You have a lot of people, a lot of death, a lot of murder around there just because of having that many people there. And it's not uncommon that there are deaths and murders on that seedy side of the world. people don't like BS. People don't like being lied to. People don't like cops trying to spin a story to fit their narrative, which we've already seen in this, or I guess lack of action in this case for quite some time, why it took forever to actually get to a conviction in this case, or a charge in this case. I'm looking at this and I'm feeling like they're going about this the wrong way. I feel like you could very easily get a jury, because you could just as easily get a jury in this that's going to go, we think you're stretching the limits over here quite a bit, so why should we believe anything you're saying over here?
Oh, totally. So the prosecution's credibility is super important with this jury. If they overextend, if they overplay their hand, like you said, it could call into question how a jury sees the reliability of the rest of their evidence. And if I'm defense counsel, perhaps I'm arguing something like, this case is about overkill, but it's not my client's overkill. It's the government who is trying to pin on the scapegoat all of these additional charges that they couldn't solve otherwise. And if you can't, place any faith in those accusations, how much faith can you really place in what the government sees as some more solid accusations?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Look, he's guilty. In my opinion, he's guilty of several of these. Is he guilty of all of them? We don't know. But there are several other cases that they have not tied to him yet that are just sitting out there kind of in speculation. Will they add this? Won't they add this? And may end up being tied to this at the end of the day. But it seems like a very tightrope that they have to be walking on right now, especially as this leads up to trial too. We still don't have a trial date. We don't even know when this trial will take place. Estimate, in your opinion, what would you think? Next year at some point? Or, could this play out for several more years with the possibility of them throwing more victims onto this?
I'm hopeful that we'll reach some kind of finality in 2026. That being said, one single murder case can be pushed out for months, if not years. We're talking multiple murder cases all combined into one. And on top of that, if they add charges, if they add alleged victims, that can start the whole thing over again, because the defense has to investigate a brand new murder case. And so we might not see any resolution for these victims' families and for Rex until 2027 or possibly beyond.
So what is the definition of a speedy trial then? Because not that I'm defending Rex Heuermann, but how long can somebody remain behind bars without their trial taking place?
It's a very important question. It comes up a lot, Stacey. So typically there is what's called a statutory right to speedy trial, which is in the state's law. And then there's a constitutional right to speedy trial. Statutory right to speedy trial is usually something like 6 months, but there are exceptions. And sometimes the defense agrees to waive it. In fact, commonly the defense would agree to waive their statutory right to speedy trial to do additional investigation, get prepared for trial. The constitutional one is much more vague and unclear. It's kind of like within a reasonable amount of time, and you look at other cases and say, hey, it's been longer than this case, but less long than this case. Does that result in a constitutional violation? So certainly that could come into play as we approach 2026. And if it goes longer than that, certainly we're having concerns about speedy trial at that point. But there's usually not a great black and white rule for that, except on the statutory side, which has a ton of exceptions.
Gotcha. Thank you.
On the tightrope that they're walking here, the forensics are on the front line here. The DNA, that sequencing and the process that they're using is unlike anything most jurors have seen. Investigators used whole genome sequencing. Of course, we all know what that is, right? It's a first in New York murder trials. It is a reliable science. It's just a new science. And when anything is new, people are going to have questions. To match degraded hairs from multiple victims to Heuermann. They also say they found female hairs belonging to his wife on some of the victims, even though she was out of town at the time of the murder, suggesting transfer from basically the Heuermann household. And Heuermann, Rex, from the house to Rex to the bodies to the burlap sacks. The defense calls it magic science, and obviously it's not magic science. It's creative use of words. They're trying to make it sound like this is junk science. It's from an out-of-state lab that shouldn't be trusted. That's the narrative. The judge ruled it to be admissible, but it is new. The evidence is going to be a big fulcrum of this entire case. And again, it's a tightrope. You're combining all these cases into one. You're using a new type of technology that hasn't been used in a New York court case before. Is that going to present some issues? How receptive are juries to hearing evidence from, a new way of examining DNA? It's already confusing as it is.
It very much is. Jurors often look at experts, at least initially, as having significant authority in that field, just being deemed an expert by the judge and being allowed to testify at trial. There's some credibility that might be imputed because of that from the jury to the expert. That being said, certainly defense is going to find some expert in DNA sciences who says, hey, this is too new, it's not reliable, you can't bet on it and hang your hat on it for convicting a person of murder. And they'll find an expert who will say that. I very much anticipate. So it's going to be a battle in there, and the prosecution is going to have to do a good job of explaining exactly what this is and why it should be reliable, and especially based on how new it is.
Well, and obviously every technology has its first day in court. This will be the first time, supposedly in New York, for this to be tested out. Could this trial set precedent for future cases and how advanced DNA is used in future prosecutions nationwide, especially if they do get a conviction on it, saying it worked over here, let's use it more over here?
100%. It could have a cascading effect throughout the country in that fashion, because one of the main factors that a court looks at in deciding whether to allow expert testimony is, hey, did another judge do it? Did they think it was good enough? Did they think it was sufficient? And if so, well, I feel reasonably comfortable with admitting such evidence in my case as the judge. And so, yeah, it's definitely going to have a significant effect. I think this is going to be used in jurisdictions across the country, assuming it's successful. If it's not successful, or if it is severely weakened during trial, I think law enforcement's going to have to take a second look at that.
We know that Asa Elrup from his wife, or ex-wife now, but from what we understand in the documentary that we recently watched, they got divorced more so for financial reasons, to protect assets and things of that nature. Okay, great, that happens all the time. But you're no longer married to him. Is there spousal rights here when this comes to testifying, when this comes to being interviewed by police, when it comes to any of that? There's, certainly plead the fifth type motions, but what sort of protections does Asa have going forward in this now that they are no longer married?
If she had any involvement, which I'm not saying she did at all,
no,
but if she did, one protection is the Fifth Amendment, the right against self-incrimination and the privilege to not incriminate oneself at trial. But when it comes to spousal privilege, that gets more murky, especially when the union has dissolved. So Rex Heuermann likely will not be able to raise some kind of spousal privilege argument to prevent her from testifying entirely. It usually applies to communications that are supposed to be confidential with your spouse. And the idea behind it is that we don't want to break up families by having one spouse testify against the other at trial. Well, families are already broken up. So that policy and the rationale behind the privilege doesn't really apply to this upcoming trial.
And she doesn't seem to be the chibi opposing witness for Rex. I wonder if, could she be called by the defense to help back up Rex and being the good old family man that he is, according to her in the documentary?
Yes. So in this context, if there is any spousal privilege under state law, it would rest with Rex, and he could always waive that privilege and call to his wife to testify. And she likely wouldn't have like her own privilege to assert. It would be the defendant who could assert it or not. So if she's going to give favorable testimony, certainly defense could call her, and they might do so in sort of an unexpected way. Perhaps they sort of posture as if, hey, you're not going to hear from the wife, whatever. And then she's the surprise witness who does some, who scores some points for the defense. That's happened before.
Judging by what we saw in that documentary, do you think she would be an effective witness for him?
Certainly she could have some favorable things to say about him. That being said, on cross-examination, the prosecutor is going to talk about that residence, and they're going to talk about what was found in there, and they're going to talk about, you mean to tell me that he never told you about the, over a dozen times that he was allegedly engaged in criminal activity? You had no clue whatsoever. They could really try to impugn her credibility up there. And so it could be a big risk calling her for the defense.
Well, and she also appears a little bit like a victim. Well, a lot like a victim, and to find all this sexually deviant stuff in the house, which, if you've got some kinks, that's your deal. Fine. But we're looking at murder investigation here. And some of the things that were found, how did she not know about this?
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be a big question, a line of questioning from the prosecutor if she testifies. Because, look, I mean, most people know their spouses reasonably well. Certainly some secrets can be hidden. But there was a lot that was taken from that house. There's a good amount of digital material as well. So it could make her look pretty bad. And also could, if she did have some knowledge and had some kind of involvement, which I'm not saying she did, but if she did, and if that comes out in trial, she could be in hot water too. So there's a lot of risks that abound with calling a spousal witness like that.
We just saw the Adelson trial, and obviously we saw one of the Adelson children who lives in upstate New York testify basically against mom, against Donna. When we saw in that documentary about Hewerman recently was the daughter, and she didn't flat out say she thinks he did it, but she seems to be kind of coming to terms with the idea that he probably did do it. And that's my conjecture on it. I think most people got that out of the documentary, that she's kind of coming there, and mom's not seeing it at all. Asa's not seeing it. What could happen here with the daughter? Could the daughter end up testifying? Could she be compelled to testify? Could she plead the fifth? I mean, could they go back and play the clips from the documentary where she's basically incriminating her father?
Yes. So the way that they would do it, she does not have any sort of daughter-parent privilege. There's no such thing exists.
Sure.
She likely doesn't have a Fifth Amendment privilege unless she had some kind of involvement, which there's no indication she did. And so what happens is they would call her, and as a witness, the prosecution would say, "Hey, did you ever say this about your dad?" And she can either admit to it on the stand and say, "Yeah, I said that something that sounds incriminating," or she could say, "No, I never said that." And they'll say, "Hey, let's go to the tape." We saw that in the Karen Reed case a lot, in sort of a little different fashion, but
sure.
Those clips can be central to either side's case, and here more likely the prosecution.
Yeah, and I would imagine there's a treasure trove of that information. Do you think? I mean, that's just what we saw on the finished product of the documentary. As we saw in the Karen Reed case, there's a lot on the cutting room floor. I mean, could they subpoena that sort of information from the media entity, the G Unit Productions 50 Cents Group that made the doc?
They certainly can subpoena it. Now, sometimes there are protections that arise for media outlets, but usually those protections just prevent calling the specific reporters as witnesses. Mm-hmm. There are ways to sidestep those, including subpoenaing materials, content, films, that kind of thing, to which such a privilege usually doesn't apply. So I don't think the defense is going to be shielded by any of those sort of media protections here. And the cutting room floor stuff is sometimes where the gold is at.
I bet there is. I bet it is. It's like Scrooge McDuck's gold room where he dives in at the beginning of DuckTales. You know what we're all talking about? DuckTales. Woo! There we go. Got a little DuckTales in. I would imagine there's a lot of it there. One more question. How the hell do you get an impartial jury on this one? I mean, where do you move this thing to? Because it's New York, it's Long Island. Everybody in this general vicinity with all of these people know about this case and know it well. It's been a trauma, I would say, to the population as a whole for many people for decades. What do you do?
Oh, totally. It's a huge quagmire for defense because so many reasons. So many people know about these allegations in New York against Rex Heuermann, tying him to multiple alleged murders. That's a huge problem. On top of that, like you said, the communities themselves have likely been impacted by these series of events, these sex workers who go missing, these bodies that are found within their communities, that they can be scared. Perhaps they have relatives who might have engaged in sex work at some point in their lives. And all of those personal connections to this case can really make it difficult for the defense to get a fair shake once we get to the trial phase. And so those will certainly be arguments if there's a conviction that'll be raised on appeal. But, do you send it to upstate New York and hope it's rural and detached enough? Even then, I'm not sure you're in a great spot.
I don't know how you get around that in this one. That's going to be very and if you have jurors that have no clue what the hell's going on with this, do you want them as jurors?
Right.
Like to be that disconnected from where? Do they have it like in an Amish community or something in upstate New York?
I was wondering if they would try, defense would try to move it to somewhere like that. I've never seen that, but a creative idea.
Yeah. The Quakers will decide the future of Rex Heuermann. It's a fascinating case. Eric Faddis, defense attorney, as always, thank you so much for coming on and giving us your insight into these cases. Always so much appreciated. That's going to wrap up today's episode of Hidden Killers Live. Tomorrow, we're going to dive into probably more in the David case. We're going to take a look at some of the videos, some of those pieces of evidence that exist, or just pieces of media, pieces of his art, pieces of his work that look pretty damn incriminating. We'll take a look at that. Plus, we're going to also dive into newly released footage of the surviving roommates in the Brian Kohberger Idaho 4 murder case. Their testimony, what they had said to police immediately after the killings took place. We're going to dissect some of that and dig into it. And let me say this, in no way are we looking at them as any sort of guilt or suspect, because there's people out there that do that shit. We're not doing it. We're just going to take a look at those the questions that were asked and what was the mindset. And really, I think we're going to examine the psychological end of it, the trauma that going through something like this implants into young minds that have to endure it. So that'll be tomorrow, 10 a.m. Central on our YouTube channel, Hidden Killers with Tony Bruschi. Search it. Press subscribe if you're there right now so you don't miss any of that. And be sure to let us know what your thoughts are on this case and all the cases we've talked about in the comment section on the video. Until next time, for Eric, for Stacy, for Todd, I'm Tony Bruschi. We will talk again real soon.
Want more on this case and others? Then press subscribe now and don't miss a moment of true crime coverage from Tony Bruschi and the Hidden Killers podcast.